Hey guys, it's Jill and welcome to my booktube channel. This video is going to be a reading vlog and I'm going to be reading Silver Elite by Dani Francis. I actually filmed this intro yesterday and I just realized about 10 minutes ago when I was organizing all of my clips on my camera that I accidentally deleted the intro, but here I am again. This is a new release from yesterday, May 6th, and it's an adult fantasy dystopian romance. This video will have spoilers, so just as a warning before you get too far into it, I will be talking about the plots, characters, everything that happens in this book, and I'll be giving you guys an update very soon with my initial thoughts, feelings, and any predictions that I may have. I have a theory about what is happening here, but first I'm going to kind of go over what the kind of premise is. Our FMC Ren, she is a mod, short for modified, and I think that they can read minds, and I don't know if they have other powers, but one power that they definitely have is that they can talk to each other telepathically. When they do this or use their powers at all, their veins will glow silver. However, there are certain mods that actually don't glow anything, and Ren is one of those people, which is actually dangerous to the general public because then she can be used in like warfare and people won't know that she's actually communicating when she is. And the reason that these powers came about in certain people was because there was a war many years ago, I think it was 150 years ago, which released a toxin, of course, and then affected some people. In this world there's also soldiers, they're called the commanders, and they have to practice to be able to shield themselves from the mods from being able to read their minds, is what I gathered at least. I think that's how it works. But right now we just discovered that Ren, she has kind of this telepathic friend that started to reach her when she was a very young child. Just one day she realized that a kind of portal, not portal, but like there was a channel that opened and she was able to talk to this guy who she ended up over the years building a friendship with, despite her adult telling her at the time to block them off and not communicate with them. And we actually meet, I believe it was the MMC. It was very brief on page like 9, I think, and he's of course super handsome and everything, but my theory is that he is the childhood friend that she's been communicating with this whole time, and that we have the secret friendship, or not knowing, what's that trope even called? Let me look it up. Okay, so according to Google it's just called the secret identity trope. I feel like there was another word for that, but anyways, that's what I think is going to happen, but I don't know yet. I will update you guys and see if I'm right. I'm currently on page 150, chapter 16. Guys, this is actually so good, and I think I made a mistake in my last video. I'm pretty sure I said that this was being compared to Fourth Wing, but I think I actually meant to say that it was being compared to Divergent, because it is definitely reminding me more of Divergent than it is of Fourth Wing. So going back to the guy who she's been talking to telepathically for years and years since she was a little kid, he is known as Wolf to her and she is known as Daisy to him. They never met in real life and they don't know each other's real names or really any identifying information. And I think it was just the last time that they talked to each other, he was saying how he hates feeling like he needs to hide. So it has to be cross, right? Like I feel like Wolf is 100% cross, and I am really loving trying to figure out whether or not it's him. But other than that, what's been happening is that Ren, her uncle, was actually taken by the command, and she kind of was implicated with this, but this network who apparently helps Modified, they wanted to put her into a house where she would be safe, and they wanted to completely change her identity and everything, so basically she could come out as a new person and have zero ties to her uncle. But of course she doesn't stay put for long, and she actually goes and tries to help save her uncle, and she ends up finding him in the middle of this public space where there's like a whole firing squad ready to execute him in public, which people are so excited about. And it's kind of like the Hunger Games in that fact of like public displays of violence and whatnot. But this is when she finds out that she is actually an insider. What is an insider? Well, an insider is a type of aberrant who is able to control other people, which is the most dangerous kind. And this one generally immediately means that you're going to be executed if they find out that you have this power. So in the middle of this execution, she actually forces the soldiers to turn the guns on themselves, which is just crazy, and everyone saw it too. So basically everyone knows that there's an insider somewhere amongst them. She was one of the suspects and she got put into questioning and whatnot, but she was able to kind of get out of that. So after that, Ren thinks she's in the clear, but of course that is not the case, because then our MMC Cross, he comes back onto the scene. He is the captain of the soldier group, and it is called the Silver Block, and he actually forces Ren to go into the training program, which supposedly is very strict and difficult to get through. And I feel like he kind of has a sense that she is maybe hiding something, and that is why he's forcing her to go through with this training. She's very reluctant, and she's kind of trying to purposely not do well so that she can get kicked out, because she just wants to go back to her ranch or whatever. And also within the Silver Block, there's another unit, and it is called the Silver Elite. Unfortunately, she also finds out that Cross is the son of the general, and she hates the general because the general hates modified, and of course she is modified. So Cross ends up being guilty by association of his dad. But what a coincidence it is that she is just truly captivated by him. So far this has been such a fun read. I've also been listening to it kind of periodically on Spotify too, and I feel like it's been a while since I've been this invested in a fantasy romance. I guess there have been some this year, but lately I feel like some of the fantasy romances I've been reading are just kind of meh, but this one is really grabbing my attention, and I'm already loving the found family that we're getting. She's starting to be friends with a girl named Lydia. She's also a recruit, and then a guy named Kane, but it also seems like she has a little bit of an attraction to Kane. So I don't know if we're going to get a love triangle in the future. I know this is going to be part of a series, so maybe that is what's going to happen. In terms of the writing, I think there are some parts that are a little bit info dumpy, slightly, but honestly I literally need that, because I have a note in my phone kind of going over the plot, going over the characters and stuff, because there's lots to kind of break down in this. I think that's all I have for my update for now, and I'm going to continue with this. I also have to like clean my house today and stuff, but I have to wait till my vacuum charges. But I'm going to continue with this, and I'll talk to you guys with another update very soon. I'm now on page 292, chapter 31, and with Ren, now she's trying to kind of gain some information to give to the uprising people, because she's basically being forced to stay here and Cross will not let her go. So I guess she's trying to follow in her parents' and her uncle's footsteps, being part of the uprising and going against the leader. There was something that happened that I was honestly so shocked about. So she ends up kissing Kane, which I thought he was going to be the one to initiate that, but she initiated it. But it was also kind of because she was upset about the one recruit, and also her friend. They were starting to get a little bit closer. She got killed because it was suspected that she was actually an aberrant, which she was, but it was still really upsetting, and it solidified for Ren that these people are not on her side, and if they find out about her, they will 100% get rid of her. So she was definitely in a vulnerable state, but she was kind of using Kane to make her feel better, I suppose. So one night Ren is told to meet somewhere in this like random place at this camp, and there's where she meets Adrian, and Adrian is part of the uprising, and she has a task for Ren. That task is to make it into the Silver Elite, and that is where she wants Ren to be an informant, gain all the information she can to give to the uprising. Overall, I really like reading about Ren. It is only in her POV also. There's no other POVs yet, at least, and she's just really smart. She's empathetic. I mean, yeah, she can be impatient and impulsive at times. Oh, and also there was a scene that was similar to the Hunger Games where Katniss puts the bow and arrow in the pig's mouth or whatever to get the apple. The circumstances were a lot different and Ren was using a gun, but it definitely reminded me of that Hunger Games scene because Ren was just trying to get the attention that no one was giving her. And in terms of the relationship between Ren and Cross, I thought that they were going to kiss at least like halfway through, and now I'm like a little bit over halfway through and there's still that tension and everything. So it is definitely a slower burn, which I'm loving, and I'm just so excited to see how the relationship continues. I don't quite feel like I know Cross super well to be able to tell whether I think I like them together or not, but we're starting to get like little bits and pieces about him. Anyways, that's all I have for now, and I'm hoping to finish this today, but I have quite a few pages left. I don't know if I'll be able to, but if not, I will continue to read tomorrow. But I'm quite happy with reading this book so far, and I will talk to you guys with another update very soon. Okay guys, we have the sitting on lap trope. Ren is currently undercover as a girl named Jilly, and he's there too at this bar. She didn't expect him to arrive, but he, I guess, asked for her to come over, and he's like, here, have a seat, and she's like, I guess so. Now, is this trope overdone? Probably, but I will in fact eat it up every single time I read it. You know, it's kind of funny that I was just saying how I feel like this is a slow burn because literally like not even 50 pages later they already hooked up. So I wouldn't say anymore that it's slow burn, and now I feel like we're going to get that awkward part when the characters are kind of like unsure about what happens next with the relationship. Basically Ren was like, this is only a one night thing, and then after that there's no more of this, and he's like, yeah, but of course there's like a 0% chance of them actually following through with that, so we shall see. I just finished chapter 44 and we have a pretty big reveal at the end of that. But before I talk about that, so of course we have Ren. She made it into the silver block, and then she was also invited to do this trial, which is the test to see if she makes it into silver elite or not, which she ends up passing. But I honestly thought that the progress of her going from silver block to silver elite was going to be a little longer than it actually was. It was literally just the next day, and then oh boom, she's just randomly in silver elite now. There's so many times that she has to remind herself that she is not friends with any of these people that she's training with, and that she truly is an outsider because she's modified. But then at the same time, she's forming these friendships with like Kane and Liddy, and then she's also getting to know Cross and kind of seeing that individuality and just realizing that they're a product of how they grew up and what they were told when they were younger, specifically being told that modified are bad. And it's also pretty hard for her to come to terms with the things that she has to do in order to gain this information for the uprising. For example, one of the tasks that they have as Silver Elite, they had to go to her hometown, and this is where her friend was implicated, her best friend Tana. And basically what happened with that is that she had to beg Cross to put Tana into labor instead of killing her with a firing squad. And even though Cross ends up agreeing to this, Tana feels completely betrayed by Ren, rightly so. Ren is just kind of having to deal with that heaviness of knowing that she had to betray her best friend for the betterment and for her to be able to eventually gain more information to tell the uprising. Honestly, ever since though, she has been super cold, especially with Cross, and right now they're just in a friends with benefits situation, which I'm kind of like about. I don't really love that trope, but that is all she's willing to give to Cross at this time, even though he's trying to kind of get to know her a little bit more, and I feel like he definitely is more invested. I don't know, because he's kind of like whatever about it too, because he agrees to this. But I feel like if it was up to him, he would actually want to like date and stuff, whereas she's pretty much just completely shutting most people out at this point. But going back to where I just left off, Ren is actually at Cross's parents' house, and so that is the leader of the whole continent, and she sees his mom, and when she sees his mom, she's like, this looks very familiar, because she believes that his mom is modified, which is crazy, because if that is the case, then the leader of the continent is a huge hypocrite, obviously, because he hates the modified and he is with the modified, and his wife is literally a modified. But at the same time, during this visit, she also discovers something that connects Wolf to Cross. So now she knows that Wolf is Cross, which I guess from the start, and I'm really interested to see if she's going to confront him. And if that is the case, that Cross is Wolf, then she knows that Wolf is modified, but I'm really curious as to whether or not she's going to actually keep this secret for now, or she's going to confront him immediately about it, or if he's going to deny it or what. That's all I have for now, and I honestly do not have too much left of this. Maybe like 100 more pages or so. I'll probably be doing a few reaction updates as I continue, but I'll also do my final thoughts and summary of everything at the end once it's all complete. Guys, the scene that just happened, I'm literally still on the staircase. It's like 2 minutes since I did the last clip. So she actually doesn't decide to keep it a secret, but what just happened here is that she dropped like a little hint about something that she's told Wolf before, and then what he does is put his knife to her throat, which is like a trope I know everyone loves, and he's like, who are you? So I have a feeling that the uprising is not who they say they are. I feel like Ren at this point trusts them way too much, and it feels like it's kind of foreshadowing that they actually can't be trusted. So there's going to be this Jubilee, and the uprising is planning something which she knows, so she's telling Cross, because at this point she's told him that she's actually working for the uprising, and he's obviously not happy about it. But her and Cross are talking right now, and he's saying how there's going to be innocent civilians at this Jubilee, and she is saying, well, they don't harm innocent people. And he's like, well, they harmed innocent people there was like an incident that happened which actually got her other friend Kane killed, which was really sad, and Cross actually thought she was involved, which she wasn't, but that was a whole other issue. But I feel like they actually don't care about harming civilians, and they will be hurting them at this Jubilee event, and then it'll probably cause chaos between her and Cross again. He's probably not going to want to trust her, and it's just going to be very, very messy, it seems like. So yeah, basically the point of this check-in is me predicting that the uprising will probably screw her over, but we'll just have to see how everything ends up playing out. Wait, so Kane's also part of the uprising too? Hey guys, it's the next day, and as you saw yesterday, I finished Silver Elite. This was so good, and I gave it 4.25 stars. So what happens was that her friend Liddy found out that she's modified, and Ren was like, oh my gosh, this is not good, because people other than Cross cannot figure this out. So she said to Liddy, please, 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 don't tell anyone, and she made up this whole elaborate plan about why she's modified, how she's actually undercover, and that the general and Cross all know. And Liddy promises her that she won't say anything to anyone, but she does not end up keeping that promise. So Liddy is the one that told everyone that Ren is modified, so that all the soldiers in Elite and more probably are trying to kill Ren. And of course Ren feels betrayed, but she also understands that Liddy probably feels betrayed too, because Ren was lying to her the whole time about being a prime. And at the Jubilee, Ren notices that Adrian is there, and when the general is making this whole speech about it being 25 years of being in rule, I think, Adrian is doing some weird things, and Ren can tell that her powers are like waning by the minute, and at the same time the general is acting very strangely, and basically his mind is getting turned into mush because Adrian is the one that's doing that. She is actually someone called a corruptor, and that is even more rare than an insider, and even more dangerous than an insider, which Ren is pretty taken aback by these powers that Adrian has, and that wasn't really what she expected to sign up for when she was being part of this uprising. Once she figures out Adrian has these powers, she actually realizes that she doesn't think Cross's mom is modified, but that she's actually in fact been corrupted by Adrian. So after this whole ordeal with the general slash leader, I actually don't know if it's called the general, the leader of the continent, Cross's dad, after that happened, everyone is kind of out for blood for Ren. And Ren doesn't have too many choices right now. Basically, she can either be killed by the command, or Adrian tells her, look, I can't really do anything for you at this point, but if you want to, you can go walk across these black lands, and apparently it's a pretty brutal place. It would take a few days to hike through to get to the other side, and then Adrian says on the other side there will be a helicopter to pick you up and then bring you to safety. And even though she doesn't really trust Adrian at this point, she does want to stay alive, and she does want answers about this whole thing. So she decides to go through the Blacklands. She does this with Xavier. Honestly, this was a little bit random to me. This whole trek they went through for 3 days, and nothing really happened to them though. It was pretty easy considering the fact that everyone was like, oh my gosh, the Blacklands are so scary. But they get there, and there is in fact a helicopter, and who is driving the helicopter is none other than Kane. And Kane, he survived the explosion that everyone thought he died at, and he is actually undercover. His real name is Grayson. At the same time, Ren got a note from her uncle that she didn't open until she was alone, which is where she finds out that her real name is Stella Hess, and her parents are known to the the uprising, as being traitors to the uprising, and apparently they actually killed a lot of modified people, both of them, like both her mom and dad. So they are known as traitors. So I feel like the uncle changed her name so that she would have no association with her birth parents. So this ends with them getting into the helicopter with the uprising, with Kane and a few other people. Cross, he's back at the mansion. He didn't go with her to the helicopter and through the Blacklands because he wanted to stay to make sure his brothers didn't cause utter chaos and corruption now that the dad is like not very there to be ruling the place. So he thought he would stay in the meantime, but they can still talk to each other telepathically. So I guess that's how they'll be communicating for the time being. I personally found this book pretty well paced, and it was easy to follow in terms of the world building and the plot. And I also felt like the tropes were added in a way that made sense and was appropriate to the situation and everything, and wasn't cringy, to me at least. I did think a few aspects were a little predictable, and I also feel like I wish we got more of the relationship development on page, because the majority of the relationship between Ren and Cross was off page when they were younger and kids growing up together and talking to each other telepathically. Despite that critique though, I really do love them together, and this book is a little bit spicy. I think there were like maybe 3 scenes I can think of, but they were pretty short and not too over the top in my opinion. One thing I would recommend if you're reading this is to write down a list of characters as you meet them, because there are so many characters in this. I'll literally count how many I have written down. I have 28 characters written down. Of course, some are minor characters and some get killed, so that kind of crosses them off at some point, but still there's a lot of characters. That is all that I have to say about Silver Leech by Dani Francis. Guys, I would really recommend this one. I feel like it's getting a little bit of hate on TikTok. I saw a few TikToks of people being like, I'm DNFing this, but I didn't watch why, because I didn't want to sway my opinion before doing this video for you guys. So I'm not sure exactly what the popular opinion with this one is going to be. On Goodreads, it still has a pretty high rating. I think it's like 4.2. So I don't know, we'll see as time goes. But anyways, if you've read this book, please let me know your thoughts on it in a comment down below. Don't forget to give this video a like and subscribe to my channel for more book content. And I will see you guys in another video really soon. Bye!